Diego.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us live, and thank you for the thumbs ups that we're already seeing. That's awesome of you. Thank you.
Yeah, we definitely appreciate that. We are out on the Bayfront lawn once again, which has been a nice spot to record. The weather pretty mild, although there's a helicopter going over us now that maybe probably you're hearing.
Hopefully, it goes away shortly. Hey, Chad. Thanks for joining us again.
Yeah, definitely thank you for joining us there. We are going to launch into things here. We've got a pretty full list of things here as there's been more and more information coming out as we get closer and closer to Comic-Con. The plan is, again, to be back next week to do one of these. We'll talk about that later. And then the following week, we'll be out here like 3 or 4 days. So, and then we're into the con, and then it's time for San Diego Comic-Con, right? So everything is coming at that point. So we thank you for joining us. In the chat, please go ahead and leave any comments. You can obviously talk amongst yourself as well. We'll try to scan there periodically and answer a few questions as we go. But as I said, we do, as we're getting closer and closer to the con, have more and more stuff to talk about. So we'll get to what we can get to.
Yeah, and so basically, what we've been doing as a reminder, we'll go ahead and put your questions and comments in there, and we will try to get to those as we kind of are in between segments and stuff. And again, hopefully this helicopter is done flying over us. But yeah, go forward putting in your comments and questions, and we'll go back to them as we have like breaks in between the conversation.
Yeah, just as we pressed to go live, the helicopter started circling, so not sure what they're looking for, but they're around. So first off, our day in San Diego, we did get down here earlier in the day, as we have been, to work on video and things like that. We made some of our usual stops at Now or Never Comics. Highly suggest checking them out during the convention time. Sweet Things as well, to get one of their great drinks. And Lolita's, we love the food there, and also the prices are so good. So those have been part of the day again. We've been working on, though, a lot of the times been on our outside Comic-Con visual guide. So that's one of our guides. We do the inside guide as well, like what escalators to use for this and that, and where to get this sign. And we'll have a separate video just on the floor in terms of the map, all those things like normal. But always the first one of those kind of big visual guides we do is the outside, where we talk about off-sites. We talk about some of the bigger areas, Petco Interactive Zone and the 5th Street area and stuff like that. So we'll have that video up relatively soon, and we hope that you'll check that out. We also saw a lot of trolley wraps. So one of the things interesting about the trolley wraps is they seem to be present, where it's like now when we're down here, it's like we're going to see them for sure, but also at the same time not anywhere near as much as a year ago this time, or in most years. I would say maybe 2019 is even better. So I'd say about 30% of the trolleys we're seeing have wraps. So definitely we're seeing them, but there are a lot of red trolleys with no wraps. There's a lot of UC San Diego, a lot of Paula, which Paula, if you've ever seen it before, and if you haven't, you'll see it when you come down here. It looks a lot like it's for The Walking Dead, so that one can work in a different way. But we're still seeing Futurama here and there, and Solar Opposites. Saw Audible for the first time today.
Yeah, we did. And also lots of promotions for going into Mexico and for different cities and down there. So yeah, I wish there were more, because it feels like there should be more, but at least there's the ones that there are. And the Futurama and the Solar Opposites, to me, kind of really stand out with the yellow and the blue and stuff. So those are easier to spot. The Audible takes me a second to actually see it, because the colors kind of aren't super bright or anything. It's kind of like a navy or something like that. But yeah, it's cool that there are the ones that there are.
It's weird not having the banners up yet in the San Diego area. In the gas lamp area. I mean, usually weeks ago those would have been up, or at least a week and a half, 2 weeks ago, whatever it might be. And so it is strange not seeing the Comic-Con International banners up. There's still Padres banners up and things like that. And so we'll see if those come, but not having those, it feels weird. If there wasn't so much news happening in the last week, we'd be like, hey, is Comic-Con really just 3 weeks away? But there's been, tons of news, and so it's coming. It's just a lot of things are going to be hitting in a small amount of time in the weeks ahead here. So it's interesting, because when you take the banners, the trolley wraps, the hotel wraps, the activations. It really gives, obviously, the look of Comic-Con. And the activations always come last, and the hotel wraps a little bit before that. But usually we have the banners up before the trolley wraps, and so it's just been kind of interesting not having those there. We did do a live video of the 5th Street area, went 4th and 6th and 5th and up to Island and all of that, and looked at some of the places that are open and closed. A couple just highlights from that or things to note. The Dupars, that is no longer there and hasn't been there for a while. That was supposed to become a Buca di Beppo last year. Finally, there's getting to be work on it. Like, it has fresh paint from like the last couple of days, so maybe it's going to open at some point this summer. Not sure that we don't know what it looks like on the inside there, but it's just something we'll start keeping an eye on now as another possible food opportunity, whether it's this year or next year.
Well, when we were down here, like last week or the week before, when we first noticed the sign that said the Buca di Beppo was on, I think had a liquor license application, I think, was what we saw. I did like poke my head in, and it still looked a lot like Dupar's did on the inside, but it looked functional. So I don't think it would take that much to have it set to start serving food again as Buca di Beppo. But obviously I don't know what the kitchen looks like, and obviously if they want the decor to be a true Buca di Beppo, then it'll take plenty of time, and in that case I don't think they'll be ready. But if they're going with similar decor, similar seating and stuff, then it seems plausible.
And like we said about some of the spots in Seaport Village, like, it's always weird when we get to a couple weeks out from Comic-Con and you start seeing a lot of activity. It feels like this is like the business rushing to try to get open in time for Comic-Con to get that, money. But oftentimes we find that they don't end up opening in time for Comic-Con. So I wouldn't put any money on that happening this year, but we'll see. Also, we talked about and looked a little bit at the Promenade area, or as it's called, the Promenade expansion, as they're doing from Broadway down to L Street. So that's center of 5th Street is basically becoming a central plaza, really, to be able to walk around. They've talked about adding planters, getting rid of curbs, adding artwork and things like that. So already they've added what they call the bollards, the kind of rising blockers, so that people can't like there, like if somebody tried to hit through there, it would block them or whatever. So they've added, that's the first real distinct thing. But it does seem like all that outdoor dining will be part of Comic-Con this year, and something that we can count on there, which is nice to have as many food options as possible.
Yeah, the outdoor dining, yes, but none of the planters or any of those things I'm sure will be there in the next 3 weeks. But by next year, maybe that area will be more promenade-like, and I'm sure we'll be making stops down in San Diego during the year, even if it's not Comic-Con specific. And as soon as we see anything like that, of course, we will post about it and stuff. So keep following us on social. Don't stop following us when it's not Comic-Con, so that you can see whatever random updates we come up with.
Yeah, it's supposed to be 8 distinct areas on that promenade, so I guess they're going to have their own theming to them. So a lot of work to come ahead, but I think the biggest part about it is just around a year ago this time, I think there was a big question of, will the outdoor dining even be allowed? The expansions that were there from the pandemic were up in the air, and this year it seems like not only will they be allowed, but that's going to start becoming a norm going forward. So Comic-Con 24, 25, and so on, we'll probably have even more food options out there. And then we did stop in at Baja Rick's. Baja Rick's taking the place of Tin Fish. We've covered that in the past, the change over there. It's a really, just like Tin Fish, it's such a nice place to like hang out and eat. Like, they've got lots of covered areas. It's very relaxing over there, but it is pricey. It is, we got chips and guacamole just as like, let's take a break after we're doing a bunch of video and stuff like that. We got in a little, medium-sized cup, and it was $15, but it was really good guacamole, like fresh tomatoes, fresh avocado, fresh onions. It was great. The chips felt like, or tasted like they were cooked homemade. So it was really good food. So not bad when you consider all that, but definitely it's not going to be a cheap eats place, but it is going to be a place, I know for us, that we probably will always be stopping at somewhere during our week of Comic-Con. It just may not be several times because it is on the pricier side.
Yeah, I mean, and the food tastes good. We've had a couple full meals at Baja Rick's
prior
in the
to
past.
Today, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Today was just chips and guacamole, but I think the burgers you still like quite a bit.
Burgers
and
are
I
great.
think they still had the
fries.
crisp cut fries. And I've always just kind of bounced around, and I'm not sure what I had in the past, but I know whatever it was I liked okay and stuff. So, but yeah, it is a little pricey, and of course, I'm sure their rent is more expensive, or their lease or whatever, to be in that exact location and stuff. So it makes sense, but but I do like these Wednesdays we've been going to Lolita's for lunch, and I think it's like $10.50 or $10.25 is the lunch special, and I get a very nice sized carne asada taco with rice and beans and the drink for like the 10 and change and stuff. So that is going to be my general preference during these trips when we're coming down here, because it's not cheap coming down here. Oh my gosh, and gas, we're getting like practically every time we come down here we're having to stop for gas and fill up the tank. And so we drive a Civic. It doesn't take up that much gas, but it still is, it's pricey. So when we can save a few dollars and eat it like Lolita's instead, we're going to go that option.
Definitely. And Pandora 576 in the chat said exactly, big point. I think we talked about it in the Fifth Street video a little bit, is that those extra outdoor seating's needed because there may not be the street vendors. And that was another thing we talked about in the video, is just there's a lot of signage making it clear that there won't be anybody out selling, hot dogs or things, grilling, street vendors. I don't think I've ever seen them put up so many signs in a city for anything as they have for no street vendors. So I know some have commented and say, well, we'll see if they actually stick to that. Yeah, who knows on that. But we know a lot of people are fans of that. We know we're going to be at Anime Expo covering that this weekend, and that's a huge thing outside the LA Convention Center. And so I don't know if they have any different rules over there, but over here, that is something currently there. So, okay, so let's transition into some of the news. And there has been a lot of news, and as we said when we started this year's series of these videos, is we'll kind of pick and choose a few things as we go. I do want to note off the top here, if you head over to the SDCon cast, and I'll put a link in the chat for those that are live with us here watching the video, they just did another one of their great podcasts and lives last night with Jermaine Lucier, who talked a little bit about the impact of the strikes and just kind of the likelihood of different actors showing up and all of those things. And so they do a much more comprehensive job with all of the different exclusives and things like that. But we kind of cherry picked some of the highlights for us and some of the things that jump out the most to us. And so the first big thing on that, this time of year, because we do love the hunt. I mean, the hunt of walking up and down the streets and trying to find offsites is like really a lot of fun to me. And so there was a lot of offsite announcements in the last few days, and it is starting to look like, from all that we are seeing and hearing, like this is going to be one of those really epic years for offsites. And so some of the things that were announced, and then we'll highlight a couple and go in a little more detail, but Sonic the Hedgehog restaurant got a lot of people excited. I know it got me excited. Sonic the character is awesome, and if there's any way they team up with Sonic the restaurant chain or the fast food chain, I'm very much a fan of that. So I'm very curious. We don't know what location it will be. We don't really know anything more about it. There are a lot of empty buildings in the Gaslamp, so if it's going to go inside, it could take up shop inside of one of these restaurants that's closed down. That would seem to me to make more sense, kind of like something like Panda Express did years ago, or Taco Bell. That feels like that would make more sense than like building a whole separate building. But we are curious and not sure where that's going to be. Also, Hello Kitty food truck coming to the Petco, and kind of the biggest announcement there was that they're in the Petco Interactive Zone, which that was the first time we've heard of like the Petco Interactive Zone coming back, which is stop for a lot of people. The fandom party, we know tickets are going up for that relatively soon. The fandom party is for a lot of Comic-Con attendees, like one of the highlights of the con, and probably the best free party that there is on top of the Hard Rock. So all of those were announcements that were exciting and fun to hear about. I don't know, do you have any thoughts on any of those before we get to the two that we're going to go do a little deeper dive into?
I don't think so. I mean, fandom party is fun, but for me personally, I feel like I can kind of pass on that one just because it does take some effort, and being up on top of the Hard Rock and stuff, I feel like I should like get a little dressed up for it or something like that, and going in my jeans and stuff. I always feel a little underdressed when I go to that party, and in general I'm kind of tired and lazy by that point. So I don't think we'll be trying for the fandom party, but good luck to those of you who are, because we having to stay on social for however long until they post it is of course a tedious thing. So I don't think we've decided for sure, but I think I'm going to pass on trying for that one myself. So we'll see.
It's a lot of work, like fun days for sure, and we've gone a few times and really loved it and enjoyed it. But yeah, it's a lot, and it's.
I mean, the view up there is beautiful, and there's seating up there, and getting to hang out with friends and catch up and stuff is kind of the highlight for that event for me. But yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's just that I'm tired in general lately these days, and I feel like we're pushing ourselves and running around a lot and stuff. And so, the thought of like changing and going up to the top of the hard rock just feels a little like to me right now. But we'll see. Maybe my tone will change as it gets closer.
Dylan Davis asks, is it free but ticketed? And yes, that is correct. And it's one of the things they'll probably announce on social. We don't know, but they'll probably announce on social, hey, watch tomorrow. And then you kind of just spend all day refreshing Twitter and waiting for the link to drop and hoping that you get it. So, but, you know, one thing for those that are new, and we know it's always kind of weird, like we're doing the video today, because we know we have people who will tell us like they watch these videos as traditions. Like a lot of people will tell us they watch them as traditions with their families, and like they'll know the stuff, but they just like kind of getting with us for that. And then there's other people that it's like, hey, this is my first convention. How do I get parking at Comic-Con? Or how do I get a ticket to next year's Comic-Con? So we have a real wide range of people. And so one of the things for those of you that are newer, I think the veterans already know this, but for the newer people, is there is, you know, always trying to decide like how you spend your time and where do you want, and everything takes time. So even when you have a ticket to something, it's like, is that where, so like one of the questions I asked you when we were talking about fandom is like, what would be more, not knowing anything else about our schedule yet, really, would be more valuable Thursday night to like get rest or do one of our video lives that night, or go to dinner at Cafe Coyote in in Old Town or something like that, or going to the party. And we were kind of weighing that. So, and we'll see, still see where we go with that. But
I mean, I also like the challenge of getting tickets for things too. So maybe just the challenge alone will be enough to push me to try it. But I don't know. It's, as you all know, if you've gone before, it is, you know, as Sean just said, you know, it is a matter of balancing out, you know, prioritizing and stuff. And so I don't know, it's always tough too when we don't know what else is going to be going on. So maybe all of a sudden we don't have anything else going on that night, and we decide, and then you know, it's like, well, we should have tried for tickets or something. So I don't know, we'll see.
Yeah. Comic-Con is a complicated beast when it comes to how to allocate your time, because there's always things popping up, and you know, you navigate the best you can, which leads us to one of the two offsites I want to do a little bit deeper dive in, just because a little bit more thoughts on it. One I know that a lot of people are excited about, and the tickets as we're recording this go up tomorrow, once again free, but that you'll need to be ready online in the morning, and that's for Jurassic Park. So we knew Jurassic Park was coming for a while. Now we have more details. I've dropped a link there to the unofficial blogs article on it for those of you that are joining us in the live chat, but I'll just read a quick little excerpt here. Recreate Dilophosaurus' attack on Wayne Knight's Dennis Nedry, as well as the infamous toilet scene. You know the one. There will also be giveaways, Jurassic-themed food offerings, and more. Fans will also be able to stop by the Visitor Center for shoppable product displays featuring 30th anniversary inspired toys, collectibles, apparel, accessories, and more. This event will be open for 2 days, Friday, July 21st and Saturday, July 22nd, from 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. Tickets go up again tomorrow morning, 9 a.m. You can go to the link there, or you can just head over to the SDCC unofficial blog site to find out more from there. But that was one of the things we were talking about, like, are we going to try for tickets tomorrow? And we, I think, are going to try. I'm pretty sure we're going to try as of recording this, but we're like, where's it located? We don't know yet. What times are going to be available? We don't know yet. What else might we have scheduled? We don't know yet. And we don't like to take tickets that we're not going to use. You can't always release tickets, like if it's an Eventbrite or something like that, but other ones, sometimes you're just like taking up that spot. And obviously these activations plan for it, but at the same time, we just generally try to not clog up an online queue if we can avoid it. But it does sound really cool. And we know that NVE, who was on the recent SDCon cast, they've publicized that they're behind it, and they do great work. So they did Dungeons and Dragons last year, and we're like, okay, maybe we should try it. So it sounds like a fun one. We know that it's a big year for the 30th anniversary at Jurassic Park. So that is one offsite that's got a lot of people happy. One thing that's got a lot of people not happy is that it's just 2 days. And so it's interesting that they are going till 8 p.m., which I'm always a fan of things going beyond the convention floor hours. I always have thought everything should go outside of the convention floor hours. But so it's nice to have that extra hour, but it is unfortunate it's only 2 days. I believe the Lanford Lunchbox also is only 2 days this year. So that's kind of an interesting, like, new trend, maybe. I mean, two things doesn't make a trend, but just seeing things that are starting to go in that way, it's like, okay, this is interesting. And so we'll see if there's more things like that, but we'll see. But if you are interested in Jurassic Park, you can do that. And if you're listening to this later, because this will also become an audio only podcast, and somehow you missed it, I'm sure they'll have standby lines and other opportunities there as well. So and then Adult Swim. So Adult Swim to me personally, is like almost the biggest news of the year in some ways. And what's weird for those that may not know is we don't really do, like, we love watching Rick and Morty and there's stuff we love in terms of content of Adult Swim, but you and I never really make Adult Swim offsite activation a must. Like, it's never been something we've done. But
I think we've done it like once or twice, but it was ended up being a little. The lines ended up being a little long, and it was. As of course, we're always running around, and so I think we ended up not. I think we stepped our foot in and maybe took some photos, but we didn't really take the time to really do the interactive stuff. And so, yeah, but it's definitely amazing that it's, in general there, and that it, does make such a cool visual and stuff back kind of behind where we're sitting now. So
yeah, it really is right behind where we're sitting now. And the reason why it's a really big deal to me is, like, I mean, I love this convention so much. I love San Diego Comic-Con so much. And I love when people show love to the people of San Diego, the fans of San Diego Comic-Con. And so Adult Swim was something that kind of left last year. Coming back from the pandemic, they put that little box, if you all recall, that showed up, I think, on the Thursday of Comic-Con or something like that. There was just like a box on their former lawn area, and it was kind of like, hey, check out, we got something out in the ocean. And it was like, is this the end of Adult Swim? But Adult Swim is like part of the atmosphere of Comic-Con to me, and things leave and then they get replaced by other cool things, so it's not the end of the world. We are sitting right now recording where FX comes in, and hopefully they'll come back this year. We don't know right now, but these are things that even when we don't do them, they're a big deal to me to be here. And when they come back, I think that's a big thing. And we'll talk about DC coming back to the floor in a little bit as well. But to me, just personally, it's a really big deal when these come. I mean, I don't have any love for any of these giant businesses or corporations by any means, but I do have love for them showing love, if that makes any sense. And so the fact that when I saw Adult Swim was back, I was like probably the most excited I've been about any announcement this year for Comic-Con, just because it was something that left or looked like it was leaving, and we don't know if it's going to come back. And them coming back, it's like, okay, that's a really good sign. Now, just to read a couple things from what they have available there, because those tickets were like up and like gone instantly. But again, there are standby opportunities. There's other things that don't require tickets that they're doing as well. Meet and greets, music, comedy, games, giveaways that feature Venture Brothers, the movie, I always challenge with that. Metal Apocalypse, but with metal in front of it. I can never say that word. Yeah, you're closer than me. Smiling Friends, Rick and Morty, Jendy Tartakovsky, and Smiling Friends nightly performances, also featuring Flying Lotus, Sarah Sherman, and the Hemlock Springs, the Eric Andre Show, live with Ginger Root, and an Akira Kira dance party. So they are not just back with a few visuals, they're back like full-on party, meet and greets, all of those things. When I saw the tickets went up, I was like, oh, let me see if we can get the Rick and Morty meet and greet. It was long gone, so we missed out on that. We got the Tartakovsky dance party at night there, so we were excited about that. But I think it's a big deal that Adult Swim's back, and I think that's a really good thing. And again, we'll talk about DC in a second, but these things do come and go sometimes. It's just the way Comic-Con works. None of them have like lifetime contracts or anything like that.
And obviously there's no debate that last year was a weird year coming back, and this year's weird again for different reasons. But yeah, I mean, it was kind of understandable for companies skipping last year, and so it's nice that they are back this year.
Yeah. And then I believe, like last year, we said that as we are out here wandering, we hear things, we talk to people, we see things, and we don't want to ever spoil anybody's parties. Like, we never share things that are, going to get people in trouble with their jobs or things like that. But I think we know, like, legit, probably 8 or 9 more, like, good offsites that are coming. And so I think last year, this time, we knew 4. And so that there's double that right now is really cool. So maybe there's a little bit less trolley wraps. That's fine if we're going to get that many more activations, and it sounds like it's going to be a really good year for activations, even if it may not be as good of a year for some of these celebrities coming out, or maybe no celebrities coming out in some cases, so it may be an odd year, but I think it's really good to know that when you guys come out to San Diego Comic-Con this year, whether you're coming for one day or the whole week, you're flying in, you're driving in, you should see the full San Diego Comic-Con campus again. And I feel like it may even look more so than some years. I mean, we'll see how it all develops. We still got a home stretch here, but there's been a lot of great announcements, and I know I'm really excited about them.
And if you aren't familiar with us or haven't been following us for very long, we're always looking for the positive and stuff. And so during the pandemic, we're always holding out hope for everything until, it was officially announced that things weren't happening and stuff. And so this year, obviously, not all the news has been great, but again, we're still always looking for the positive of things. And for us, we're going to enjoy this convention, even, if no studios show up and there were no offsites, we would still, enjoy ourselves and go explore other things and learn new things. But yeah, we are always trying to look at the positive, and it's not always easy, but we do try. But this time there's actually stuff that is making it much easier to be positive, which is awesome.
Yeah, there's been so much good stuff. And so, to kind of segue though, for somebody that loves Comic-Con like I do, then it's a natural that I also love the Comic-Con Museum. I think anybody that loves San Diego Comic-Con will love the Comic-Con Museum, or at least that's been my feeling. We visited there a few times and I absolutely love that place because it does have that Comic-Con vibe, no surprise, all year long. So they also had some announcements which are exciting, some new exhibits coming there. Excelsior, The Life and Legacy of Stan Lee, Cowboy Bebop 25th Anniversary Art Exhibition, My Hero Academia Art Installation, Comic-Con Masquerade. They are doubling the size of that area. If you've not visited before, they've got a bunch of costumes on display. They're doubling that in an expansion. The If Then Steam Fair, Cardboard Superheroes and Workshops, and then still continuing are things like, one of my favorite things is the Cover Story section. Cover Story, 5 decades of Comic-Con. It's just 5 decades of Comic-Con program, original artwork, covers. It's awesome. And then the Pac-Man Arcade is continuing. So there's a bunch of things that are just, even though we visited a few times, like we go and I still look at them as if they're brand new, but also having in some of these new exhibits. Last year, the Spider-Man Beyond was fantastic. And so now it's exciting to see what these, with some anime. I think this might be the first time that they're kind of getting some of the anime stuff in there. So excited to see that. And of course,
I think
Stanley.
they've had some like manga in the bookstore in the gift shop or whatever, but yeah, I don't remember seeing much in the way of on the actual display. And I echo, I love it's almost kind of like a hallway where they have like old programs listed and stuff. And I'm like enjoying going through, or I've enjoyed going through and like looking at the names of who like the artists were and stuff. And I'm not as big a comic book fan as obviously you are, Sean, or whatever, but I find it, I'm proud of myself when I like recognize some of the art. I'm like, I think that's Neil Adams' work, or I think that's Jim Lee, and then I look and like I confirm, oh, I'm right or I'm wrong, but then I'm like, oh, but I recognize that name. And so it's fun to see the familiar names on the walls and stuff next to the artwork or the old programs and stuff. It's a kind of a fun experience.
I totally agree. It's great to see. I mean, it's just an awesome place. And so if you're local to San Diego, or you just visit San Diego and other times a year, maybe you don't have time to visit during San Diego Comic-Con, I can't recommend enough checking it out in February or October or whenever you might be down here. So it's a really fun experience there. Okay, 2 more quick news items, and then we'll get to some of the questions that might be popping up there in the chat. So next up, and I just put in the chat for those that are with us live here or watching on video, this is the unofficial Comic-Con, San Diego Comic-Con unofficial blogs panels that have been announced so far. So obviously pretty soon here we'll have the official announcement of all the panels, but prior to that, people are constantly sharing their panels, that hey, I'm going to be on this panel, check it out. And so I shared that there because they are keeping track of all of that, as they do with so many things. But one of the ones we want to highlight, Lionsgate announced that they're going to be there with Ghosts, Hills, and the Continental, which I'm very curious about. The Continental, I actually really am into giving that show a try on Peacock because it extends the John Wick universe. Hills, I'm interested in. We've heard Stephen Amell, we just heard him talking about that over at Phoenix Fan Fusion, and so I'm curious about that show that's coming back for a 2nd season, I believe. And then Ghosts, we've heard nothing but good things about, the CBS comedy, but we've not watched it ourselves, and we probably should give it a chance. So 3 shows I'm actually interested in to varying degrees, and it was just nice to hear some of that because obviously, we know that it is a weird year when it comes to the Hollywood side of things, and we're still in the middle of like what's going to go on with these strikes. So it's just kind of nice to get a couple announcements there of some of those things that may come and show some clips and things like that.
Definitely. I fully agree. It's nice that they'll be there, and again, even though we're not familiar with the shows, I also wouldn't be opposed to going to those panels and getting to become familiar with them in that way.
Yeah. Turning to the floor, I guess now there's two things. I had said there was two things before that, but two things here. So Funcoville returns. They've added a bowling alley, donut shop, boutique, gas station. Funcoville was a great, fun, exciting thing to go inside last year with way Funko approached San Diego Comic-Con. Again, going back to my previous statement, is I'm a fan of people giving love to San Diego Comic-Con. I know some people are like, oh, they're gonna, because they've said they're gonna double the space on the floor. For me, in this year, where people like Sideshow are saying, yeah, we don't really need San Diego Comic-Con, I'm a huge fan of Funko doing that, just because it's wanting to be more of a part in saying San Diego Comic-Con is important to us. You know, again, for me, full disclosure, when Hasbro stopped doing exclusives at San Diego Comic-Con, I canceled all my pre-orders, and like, I wouldn't say I've stopped buying Hasbro, I haven't, but like I buy a lot less, just because, you know, the idea of, again, not supporting San Diego Comic-Con, that bothers me. And so big corporation Hasbro doesn't care about me and my, you know, measly pre-orders, but it does play. And so when Funko said they're going to go bigger, that they want to do more at San Diego, that was something in a year where, again, Sideshow, you know, the video they released and stuff about not coming, or their little statement, was kind of like, yeah, we don't need San Diego Comic-Con, we don't need those fans. It was kind of like, oh, that's kind of annoying, you know, that's kind of rude. So I was a fan of that. The other thing, and then this is right there with Adult Swim, it's actually a bigger deal to me than Adult Swim, but because of what it means too, is the DC booth being back. And that was just a couple hours ago. It was really nice being down here, and it's like, wait, what's going on with DC? And then click on the blog's article there and see it, and it's like, oh, DC is back, and they're doing signings, and they're selling. I mean, it sounds like it's a better than the old days DC booth, which the DC booth is one of my first memories of San Diego Comic-Con, getting Robinson, one of the creators of Joker, to sign a print. Like, it was like one of those Comic-Con moments of like, we're at Comic-Con, and like the guy that helped create Joker's here, and like he just signed a print for us for free. And so the DC booth is back. They're also coming back to doing a little bit with preview night, with a little bit of a screening. So just in a lot of ways, DC kind of coming back. So a big deal as well. I'd way rather have DC have a booth than it being locked in with Warner Brothers, but I would have taken anything. But I'm really excited to get a kind of classic DC comics and film booth as well.
Again, I fully agree. I love the DC booth. It is just one of those things, or places to go and take a look at things and see what they have on display and stuff. And yeah, it's improved even over, or even expanded from what it was before. That's incredible. And even if it's not, I'll take what they're bringing, and I'm definitely looking forward to it.
All right, so we have John Birch. Thank you so much. You donated $4. Thank you very much. We do appreciate that so much. Okay, so hey guys, love your content. Best offsite restaurant party recommendations for people who will be coming to SDCC alone, without a party. So, you know, we've talked about just ourselves of like doing things solos. Like Carmel and I take time, not because it's like, oh, we need a break from each other, but we do like to take time and just like wander separately. I mean, even the close of Comic-Con every year, she does a live of like, these are the last minutes of Comic-Con, and I love just kind of being on my own and wandering. Usually the first hour of our day, we go off. So for us, just to start off, I know personally, I'll speak for myself first, and then you go. Personally, I like being alone for windows of time at Comic-Con to just wander, and just aimlessly, to be honest. Like, I just love floating around and like seeing, and just kind of like a wide-eyed child, and just like, what is it, with no agenda. So my favorite thing probably of being solo at Comic-Con is that, of just the wandering and seeing things on the floor and outside in the activations.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say it's like one of my favorite aspects of things or whatever, wandering alone, but I think we can all use some quiet time and stuff, all, you know, off by ourselves and stuff. But as far as like parties and stuff, I think go to any party that you can go to, and you'll meet people there if you're wanting to meet people. I mean, I think we both kind of tend to be a little more introverted.
Very introverted.
So parties aren't like our thing necessarily. Like, it's challenging for us to like go into a group of strangers and like, you know, be sociable. It's not like, I know it's like some people like actually gain energy by doing that. That's not us. It's a little challenging, but if you are interested in that, and you go to any party that you can get yourself into and just enjoy it and meet people and hang out and stuff. And who knows, you may find a good line buddy in there. You might, you know, find other friends and stuff. And we know a lot of people who have made like good lifelong friends, like in lines and stuff, and sharing rooms or different things. And so we've always come here together, so we haven't ever experienced it entirely by ourselves. But yeah, I'd say go for it, and just anything you can get into, just go and enjoy it. And if it's not your thing, you head out and you find something else to look into, or you go and get a good night's sleep, because that's always very valuable during Comic-Con.
I would recommend the Neopets party as well. I know Carrie Dixon spoke about it last night on the SDCon cast as well, but like they are doing the old school San Diego Comic-Con type party, which is like, it doesn't really even matter what it is that they have. Because we talked about on the last show, like you and I aren't into Neopets, but just they're doing that kind of old school party where it's like, here's free food, here's free entertainment, here's an environment that's fun, and it's just like, that's how so many parties used to be at San Diego Comic-Con. And now, and no shade on those that are charging, it's just like now there's so many of like, here it is, but it's going to be $50, $25, or whatever it might be. And so I love kind of that old school thing. I also love that it's a bit of a hunt on the floor, that you have to get a ticket from their actual booth. I've always been a fan of that. The other thing I would say, to Carmel's point about meeting people too, like last year for Funko Fun Days, we had arranged a couple of people from our group of our Parks and Cons crew with Patreon, and we met them there, and it was like, to me, so much more fun for the time at Fun Days is meeting these people who we hadn't met before, and
in person.
Yeah, in person. And it was like, it felt like immediately they had become friends, because it's like, oh, we all like Funko, and we're all here to do the Fun Days thing, and we're all talking and things like that. So I do feel like people are really open. I feel like San Diego Comic-Con people are so open to making friends. Like, I feel bad when I'm in a line and I put like headphones on, so I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna zone out, and then somebody is, you know, so kind next to you. So I think that as well is just kind of being open to talking to them. And then on the restaurant side of things, to me, Mary Jane's is way expensive at the Hard Rock, but I love that place. I've eaten there by myself so many times, and I just love going in there, especially during Comic-Con, because everybody there's for Comic-Con. Hopefully they have some sort of overlay, which is fun, but I love going in there and just sitting in one of the booths in the air conditioning and seeing all of the costumes and all of the people in there, and then, you know, chatting with the waiter or waitress about what, because usually they're curious about, you know, people's Comic-Con experiences and stuff like that. So I think those would be kind of my recommendations on that. So, sense? Okay. All right, let's get to actually a couple other quick questions here. Night Bodega, thank you so much for reminding people, please hit the like so we can show support for the info. We really do appreciate that so much. Headless Ned Stark, Hasbro's made me completely uninterested with the QR codes that anyone can get. I'm kind of in a similar boat there. It is a tough one. Shutter FC3, Jose Cueva, Friday and Saturdays are the best days to enjoy the Comic-Con nightlife. Nearby hotels are very expensive unless you get on Peak's Comic-Con rates. A few tips there. Lots of things there. Okay, we'll come back to that after the next segment then and catch back up with those. All right, so a couple quick things to preview of stuff that we do have coming out that'll hopefully help with your Comic-Con experiences. We've got new video coming out. As I said, the Outside Comic-Con visual guide will be up there somewhere in the relatively near future. And then 1 week from tomorrow, so next Thursday, we will be back with another probably 6:30 p.m. again Pacific time live show, which we're mounting with the information. So I'd imagine a week and a day from today there's going to be a whole lot more to share. So those are some things coming up in terms of the video realm as well as the audio podcast there. For our Parks and Cons crew, those are those that support on Patreon. We appreciate your support there. We did put up the signups there for the preview night morning tour, so the preview morning tour. So on Wednesday of Comic-Con week, we're going to do a tour in the morning of what's going on with the campus, off-sites, in person, so kind of like what we normally are doing via social media, but in person. We are getting swag bags ready there, so please make sure that you let us know if you're going to be coming, because we don't want to be there and then you show up and we don't have a bag for you because we didn't know. So please, if you're part of the Parks and Cons crew, also for the Parks and Cons crew, for those Patreon people, to now 2 more bonus hop things that are coming up for exclusive content there. We are going to be scheduling a chat, a Zoom call, if you will, with those of you interested to just talk about the floor in the relatively near future. Once we know the floor map, we'll schedule a time, and so we can help you with your planning, talk exclusives.
So we'll still do our regular floor map video that we usually do, where Sean looks at the map and stuff. But we figure for Patreon supporters, the Parks and Cons crew, we'll do like not
Special
one-on-one conversations. However many people decide to join in the conversation, but we can all like look at it and strategize together and help each other out and figure out the specifics. So that'll be a more intimate conversation than obviously what we're doing like today.
Yeah. And then we'll also be doing one as kind of an overall like planning for that group as well, somewhere a few days after that. So we'll schedule these on Mighty Networks on Patreon there. So catch, but that one will be kind of an all-encompassing planning of like looking at offsites, the panel schedules and all of that, and just kind of take some time to hang out and talk Comic-Con and what our plans are, what your plans are as well. So if you are part of the Parks and Cons crew, keep an eye out for that. And we thank you so much for your support there on Patreon. Now, real quick, our swag bag winner this week, we did the winners. We did a contest on Instagram. We're going to go back to Twitter coming up probably pretty soon here. So keep an eye on Twitter if you like those swag bag contests. But the winner, and we'll put it on social media later, but to announce it here, Space Ranger Ray. Space Ranger Ray. So Space Ranger Ray, if you are watching, congratulations. We'll be reaching out for your address, and then we'll post that over on Instagram as well. Why don't we go to the chat there and see if we have any others in there. Has Mattel said anything yet? No. Mattel has been ridiculously quiet and so weird in this year of Barbie. Like, I really thought we were going to have a lot of Barbie starting in like June. Like, I thought they would be like, we're going to be doing wraps and we're going to do, the Dream House offsite. And I know they're doing their Airbnb thing out in the beach and stuff like that. But like, I thought San Diego Comic-Con would be a part of the approach, and I still think it will be. But so on the exclusive side, like, there's got to be a bunch of Barbie exclusives looped in with other stuff, doesn't there? I mean, it seems like there has to be, but Mattel has been silent. Lego has been silent. I saw somebody asking in the chat earlier about Lego. Lego has been just ridiculously silent. Hasbro's been mostly silent. So some of the biggest players in the traditional years of Comic-Con have been so quiet, which makes way for, like NECA to come out and do their things, or Loyal Subjects, Entertainment Earth, and their team-ups and so on. But it's been very quiet by some that were, to my recollection, the first article ever written about like exclusives at Comic-Con was I wrote about Mattel back for the SDCC blog back in 2012 or 13 or 14 or something like that, and it was like, and people were like clicking away on that. It's like, oh, people do want to hear about exclusives, and it was like, because we would hear about Mattel so early, like that was a really big deal to get out in front of it, and now it feels like those guys really wait to the last second in a lot of ways. So no word on Mattel yet.
And then let's see. Chat's still waiting for Viz.
Yeah.
Let's see.
If you want to use this, you can. My eyes are not good enough. I think I need glasses. That's a whole different topic. But in the last couple of months, I've come to the realization that I think I need glasses. So
Okay.
if I do miss any of your comments on these like lives that we do or those video things, it's probably because of that. So I apologize. But I'm having more and more trouble reading the text on these things. So.
Let's see. Mattel is reliving something, the WWE exclusive this weekend in the UK, part of the Money in the Bank. If we see you guys at the con, is it cool if we say hi and get a selfie, or do you guys need to focus and stay on task during the actual con?
No, we would love to say hi. We are introverted, so we don't say hi to people very often on our own.
Yeah, we're not quite initiated, but if you initiate it, we're cool with it. It's just
yeah, we love seeing people, and we love hearing, like, one of the coolest things I think I've heard in the last few years is a lot of people have said, like, that they like to watch these videos again as traditions. And that I had never thought about that, because I always thought up until this year, I would always think like, man, some of these videos, like when we do our outside visual guide, how redundant is it? Like a lot of these people watching it must be pointless for them. And then they're like, no, it's part of our traditions and stuff. It's like, oh, that's really cool. But I think last year was the first year people started saying that, and quite a few people said that. And I was like, oh, that's really cool to know. So no, we appreciate catching up with you all. We appreciate all the support everybody gives.
Any Paramount Plus or Star Trek news?
Something's got to be coming, right? Because I mean, the wraps, everything going on. I mean, I know it's such a weird time for the streamers, but there just feels like with Strange New Worlds being right in the middle of its season, with there being a lot of love for it, with Lower Decks coming. They've got that crossover episode that they announced at San Diego Comic-Con last year with Lower Decks. I really have high hopes for something to come from Paramount Plus with that. Now, there was wasn't there something, I think Fandom Party has some sort of, like, I don't know, photo op or something for Strange New Worlds. I thought I saw in the article on that. I feel like the fact that they've got the wraps, the fact where they're at the end of the season, I feel like we're going to get some more Star Trek, but nothing official yet. Last year with 10 Forward and, you know, Picard being out in LA prior to Comic-Con, it felt so much like a given it would come, and then it did come. But they also announced it earlier, so eagerly watching as Star Trek fans for sure.
And there's a question. I know it's still a little early, but are there any exclusives you're looking forward to getting as of now?
So I got the Alf figure from NECA, the pre-sale, and I think that's it so far. A lot of the Alex Ross stuff is like amazing and just so tempting, and I want it so bad, but a lot of the prices are a little high. Some of this DC stuff, I didn't get a chance to look very closely at the DC stuff announced today. I'm always curious to see what the Marvel booth will have. So, and as much as I hate the QR codes that Hasbro does, if they have something like the equivalent of a Serpentor, then it's like, oh, I gotta get that type of thing. So, but no, right now the exclusive list is incredibly short, because basically Alf, I think, is the only must, and we already bought him in the pre-sale. So,
and what days are the best to rent a hotel and enjoy the nightlife of Comic-Con?
I mean, I think there's nightlife is really, I mean, all the nights have stuff from comedy clubs to parties to, you know, from year to year things can vary in terms of what becomes like the busiest of the nights, but really starting Wednesday night there's a lot of activity. I think Thursday night's the first night you really start seeing things like parties and things like that. Friday is famously, and Saturday are famously like the big nights, and Sunday night pretty much everybody's wrapping up and getting out of town by that point.
Let's see then, any idea if Park Nightclub has a place to check bags? I got tickets to a couple off-site parties there. I don't know the answer to that.
Not sure. No, I'm not sure. Sorry. But I imagine if you just call them or drop them an email, they should have an answer for that one there. So, all right, let's get to our SDCC tips, some of the ones. So if you follow along with us on Twitter there, we put out tips most days. Like a day like today, the tips are these videos that we're doing and stuff. But in general, we put different little blurbs. And so I picked 3 of them from the last week to highlight. So number 1, if taking on Comic-Con with friends or family, make sure you're able to assist each other in monitoring Twitter. Now, going back to John's question earlier about going solo, the advantage there is you're able to move like really quickly when you're solo and just bounce around. And so on the other side, if you're with a group, the disadvantage is it's a lot harder to move around because people have their own schedules of eating and all of these things. But the advantage is having more eyes on social media. And Twitter, things move really fast. Like in the morning when I'm able to get loose on the floor, like I'll immediately be tweeting like, hey, they're giving out bags at this booth. Hey, they're giving out, you know, tickets for this autograph signing at this booth. And then people will tweet back like 2 or 3 minutes later, like, oh, they just missed out on the last one. So things move really fast. And so having multiple people follow along there. Now, I know for a lot of people, Twitter's not been the easiest platform to use in recent times here. I know just today I found that there were several people who had tweeted us that do not show up in our mentions at all for no reason. They're not blocked, they're not muted, they just don't show up. Why? I don't know, but this is something that happens sometimes. So I know not everybody loves Twitter right now, but I do think for Comic-Con there's still no substitute in terms of how the information moves. And so if you're able to get family, friends on there, even if all they do is create an account for a couple weeks and help you monitor things, that can be really helpful.
Yeah, I mean, it is, I mean, as long as you're not in the For You tab and you're in the regular feed, you'll see the stuff in real time, which isn't the case in all the other platforms, at least not for me. I can't figure out some of the other platforms just to see, who I want to see and stuff. And so having your notifications on and having multiple people have those notifications on, to your point, is very helpful, because even if you have the notifications on, you still may miss something, and someone else in your party or group might be able to catch it for you, especially if they know what you're hunting for and stuff.
Yeah. Another tip from this week, SDCC is filled with easily identifiable landmarks. It can be helpful to have fail-safe meeting spots. So one of the great things about Comic-Con and the San Diego Convention Center, there's a lot of very memorable landmarks there. I mean, just the big letters, the Hall H sign, the G, all of these different Hall D, etc. Those can be easy, landmarks. Like for us, Hall C is a spot often we will meet. And it's like, if we can't find each other, let's go to Hall C, and it's an easy spot, an easy way to kind of catch up. So it's nice to have some of those. We talked about a tip before of just like even in text, like letting people know where you'll be at. It's easier to say, well, we're going to be at the, the 8-foot tall, Thanos Lego statue or whatever. But having those identifiable landmarks, especially if you have any younger ones with you, to make it really clear of like, if you get lost, like let's meet back here. Not that there's not other measures to take as well, but just I think even with just two adults like you and I, having some spots where it's easy to know like this is where we're going to meet can help very much.
Yeah, and obviously technology is not perfect. If all of a sudden we all lose signal or something like that, it's impossible to connect. But if we know that there is a spot, and we'll do that even at theme parks. Like the other day, we took our niece and nephew to Knott's Berry Farm, and we're like, okay, if we get separated, obviously they had their phones and stuff, but let's go to Panda Express. They both knew where that was. We knew where it was. That's where we're going. And so that holds true here. It's like we have a fail safe. It's like if for whatever reason we get disconnected, we're meeting here.
Yeah.
It's helpful.
And then lastly on the tips, and this is I think a big one, is when possible, double, triple check booth operation procedures with the volunteers, with the staff. Is make sure, because we've talked about it, one of the most important things to know for new people that are going to San Diego Comic-Con is there are a lot of temporary workers. The entire place is built around temporary employees that are working these booths for just a couple of days there, and things change. A procedure for Wednesday night can become totally different by Thursday morning, Thursday afternoon, Thursday night. So I know for you and I, it's just kind of a common practice of anything that we care about, we are heading over there and asking a couple times and saying, we'll ask the day before, then we'll ask the morning of, then we might ask the hour before of like, okay, so exactly how is this going to work, to try to make sure, because they are constantly changing procedures as they learn things don't work as well or they find better ways. So make sure, if there's an important, there's going to be some comic artist or some celebrity is going to be signing in the sales pavilion, and you want, try to go ahead of time and verify how procedures are going to work so that you are okay. Now, if it's not a competitive thing, then it's not a big deal. But those things that are super competitive, it's really important. I know, like for myself, I always go to Mattel, Hasbro, Lego, some of those booths that really interested me over the years. And on preview night, we'll ask them like, so how are things going to work this weekend? If they have anything I'm interested in, if they're doing any signings, anything, how's this going to work? Entertainment Earth is interesting. For example, Entertainment Earth has done those online lotteries for the signatures there, right? But what is not always super obvious up front is like you have to buy something from them to get signed there. And it's like, that's okay. But like if you have your own thing that you really love and want to add their signature to your poster, that a lot of times is not allowed. Now, not to say some celebs don't break the form and go their own way with it, but it's just really helpful to ask as many times as you can the questions. And obviously it's not always going to work out that you have that luxury, and sometimes you ask 3 times and it's still going to be different when you show up. But I do think it's a big time recommendation to remember to ask as many times as you can those booths to make sure you're really clear.
Agreed. Yeah, always try to double check if possible, and especially if it is something you care about. If it's something you're lukewarm in, then it's not necessarily worth the effort to you to try multiple times. But if it is something you care about, definitely try to get as many answers as you can, as often and as much as you can, so that you are able to get the things that you care about.
All right, going to go to the chat for our last round of questions here, and then going to go to one more spot before we wrap things up here. So, Shutter LC3 exhibitor list is usually put up this week or next week. Any word if it may be out later this year? You are correct. It is normally around this time. We know that the panel schedule normally comes out pretty much like clockwork 2 weeks prior. So yeah, I think we can expect that schedule to drop this week, most likely, the exhibitor list. If not, maybe early next week. I know it's July 4th weekend, so that's all the more reason I think it will drop this week at some point. Maybe it dropped while we're on this video right here. Night Bodega, thank you so much for tuning in, and he said thanks for the stream. Thank you always for your support there. Green Team Captain, do you guys have a Discord channel? We do not. The SDCC unofficial blog does have a Discord channel. We do not have one, though.
Actually, I think we technically do, but we've never used it for anything, so we'll go with no, we don't.
Yeah. Alyssa says cell phone reception can be, not great on the con floor. Agreed. Then Green Team Captain, my team's all about meeting by bag check. That's perfect. Yeah, just having something that can always be, just consistent there. Here's a great one. This is a great point, especially for people that are new to the con. Pandora 576 says the Funko exclusives change from Saturday to Sunday, and that does happen with booths where things can change overnight. I mean, really overnight there. So and it's can be frustrating. So I guess if it does get frustrating, I mean, I guess that kind of goes to like the heart of everything Comic-Con though, right? Is when things get frustrating, try as much as possible to look to the bright side of things. It takes so much work to get to San Diego Comic-Con. Try to soak it all up and enjoy it, and when one thing doesn't go right, hopefully it opens a door to something else better than that. So okay, as we're wrapping up here, again, our playlist has so many videos on it. For the newer people, highly suggest checking out old Comic-Con videos, like 2022 in particular, and we have like over 70 videos of that. If you just want to see like how crowded is the floor, or some of the visual guides from last year, things like that, you can check them out there. For this year though, in addition to the ones we've talked about coming up, we do have the backpack video. If you're looking at like what do we pack for there, the quickie video, a lot of people seem to be liking that and just coming up, and a lot of people are adding in the comments, and we encourage you to do that with all of our videos, is help each other out. All we are is two people that love going to Comic-Con, and like we try to share the stuff we do, but there's people that bring things up all the time that we don't think of. So please always feel free to go in the comments and help each other out and add those things there. We do have 3 of these shows that are up on the channel now as of the finishing up of this, and then that 5th Street video. It's kind of 5th Street and beyond because we hit a few other streets there. If you are interested in some of the offerings there, definitely suggest checking those out as well. So I think that is going to wrap it up. If there's not any other last questions there. Pandora, okay, thank you very much. If you can, click the thumbs up. We do appreciate it. Again, if you want to support any of our work, you can jump over there on Patreon. We do have the bonus content coming there as well. We're going to wrap up here from San Diego, and we'll see you all next week. We'll see you this weekend if you're interested in some Anime Expo too. If you want to see 150,000 people crammed into the LA Convention Center where there's no offsites usually, it's crazy, but it's a lot of great prep for the madness at San Diego Comic-Con as well. So we'll see you this weekend also on the live streams if you're interested in that. So wrapping up from San Diego. See you next time.